Now for a quick walk around of the car. They've improved the styling. The headlights are almost straight off of a Porsche. They're very nice looking. They've really improved things. The other car was more like it more tailored towards the female market, and this one here, they've lowered the roof line and flattened it out a little bit, added some more curves and some more lines to try to appeal to the male market. I think it worked. I did not like the last generation, but I think this generation is much improved. It's just a whole lot nicer. Rims are so-so in the base model. Nothing that's too exciting. It still is a Volkswagen Beetle, so the styling is going to be very similar as how it's always been. You don't want to change it too much, because then you just flat out lose what makes it the Volkswagen Beetle. To open the trunk, you simply push this in and grab and pull up. If you let it go, it kind of relocks and can kind of be finicky. But one thing it does provide is no visible handle. This is the trunk space of the car. It is actually quite roomy for this particular type of car. If you had a previous generation Volkswagen Beetle, then you know that the trunk space is not exactly the highlight of this car. They've improved it a little bit since the last generation, but it's still not massive, but still pretty big for a hatchback style car. The lift gate, the hatch, I can actually walk underneath it. I'm 6'3". There's no trouble. Some cars, they get in the way and you bang your face. It's just not good. Both these seats do fold down. You can pull this little tab here in the center, of course direction you are, and then you can slide them down, and then you'll have lots of space for storing longer items. And this thing here can be taken off by just simply popping the string out, but you can get a lot more space, as you can see. Now let's look underneath the hood of the car. This is the base model, so it has the 2.5 liter 5-cylinder motor. It's a little bit unusual to see a 5-cylinder motor, but Volkswagen, they just do their own thing. So you have 177 horsepower and 170 foot-pounds of torque with this motor. It's pretty good. It's not great. It could use a little more horsepower, but it's not bad. It ain't really bad on fuel either. You could do worse on fuel. Some people are complaining they think the thing should get a whole lot more fuel mileage and all that stuff, but I think that 22.31 for fuel mileage is pretty good for a car this size. There's a lot of cars that do worse. There are cars that do better, but if the trade-off is a little bit less fuel mileage and you get a little more pep out of the car, a little more takeoff power, a little more passing power, then I think it's worth, you know, a couple miles per gallon, because no one really wants to drive a car that when you merge onto the freeway you just can't get up and go. So here's what the car sounds like when it starts. Pretty quiet at idle. It's gonna be a little bit louder with the hood up, of course. But it's not even loud at the back either, so that's the sound a 5-cylinder Volkswagen motor makes. Now let's look at the interior of the new Volkswagen Beetle. We'll see the changes that they've made since the last generation. The seats are nice. They feel pretty comfortable. They got decent texture onto them. Not too rough, not too soft. They don't have really much side bolstering. Of course, this is not like a performance race car anyways, so you shouldn't expect too much. This base model has a manual seat, which I like better than electronic seats anyways. I don't care if you're driving a fancy BMW or Lexus, Cadillac or whatever. They're really slow at responding, especially if you're trying to get people in and out of the back seat. It's just really slow. In order to start this car, you have to put your foot on the brake first before you even try to use the key, or it's just going to not work. But this is the gauge cluster. Shows the doors are open. You got your headlights here. A little bit of a storage space up top here. It's rubbery. Things won't slide easily. Here's some of your controls. You have the manual shift mode. This is the 6-speed automatic transmission. So you can shift it, but it's really not that exciting. If you really wanted to have an exciting car, you should get this thing in the turbo DSG transmission option, and that car will be much more exciting to drive versus trying to shift through the automatic transmissions gears. The DSG gearbox is just so much nicer. They got this shiny black plastic. It's nice. I hope that over time it'll hold up and won't scratch, but knowing how plastic is, people put their foot right there or something, or it gets hit and you'll have it scratched off. The letters could peel off over time. Time will tell and see how well that holds up, but it does look good. It's like a piano black finish. It's glossy, it's pretty. You have it also in the steering wheel. Here's the armrest. You have a little storage in here. Don't expect to store much. You might put your phone in there. Another little storage pocket. Your cup holders, they're not as wide as I would hope they would be, because some cups nowadays are really big. Like, you can't put a Gatorade bottle in there, but a lot of cars you can't do that, so that's not the worst thing in the world. Hazards. And now let's take this thing for a drive. Alright, I'm going to do a mild acceleration test. Where we're testing this car, we really don't have a whole lot of room. We can go clear down to that cul-de-sac. This is the base model. I'm telling you, it gets up and goes pretty good. And the brakes work pretty good too. At slow speeds, the brakes are almost too grabby. I almost don't like the brakes, but it's just something you get used to with every vehicle that you drive. You have to get used to the brakes. But I have no problem with acceleration. It's not fast, but it's not slow either. The car on the inside rides pretty smooth. We're gonna go around the neighborhood here and let you hear basically what it is, how quiet it is on the inside. We'll turn the air off. We're going about 40 right now. So it's pretty quiet. It rides pretty good. It's almost a slight bit bumpy, a little bit. It's a kind of a firm suspension onto it. Be sure to not hit those crazy deer way ahead of us. This community is full of the things. But steering is responsive when you turn the wheel. It feels strong. It takes a little bit of effort to pull. It's not really a light steering feel like some cars, which I kind of like the heavy steering feel, but some people like it lighter. The car rides really good. It's really a good riding car. I don't think anybody will have any problems with how the car rides, unless you want something that rides super smooth, and you probably wouldn't even be interested in this class of car anyways. There's many people out there who buy these cars and then they get on there and complain because they don't ride smooth. They're not really quiet, and If you want a car like that, then you need to go out and get you a Lexus or a BMW or something like that. Don't expect that in a car that has a base price in the 20s, because you're just not going to find it. But if you're an everyday driver, you just want a car that looks good, gets you back and forth to work, something you can go out at night in and drive around town, this is your car. There's a good amount of space in here. The rear leg space, not so good. Head space is also not so good in the back for an adult, but not many adults will get back there. And it's a little bit of an improvement from the last generation. Trying to get adults in the last generation version of this car would be rather painful. But it is improved. They've done some things to the way they style it, and it's good. But this is a good car.